Hey guys, Zippy here. Just a couple of things I'd like to make note of before we start. This countdown is purely personal opinion, so if you have different thoughts, I welcome them, and please don't troll me. These are my favourite movies of 2010, not necessarily the best in terms of review scores or whatever, so bear that in mind. I'm going to be uploading 5 videos in total, each of them including 3 movies over the course of the next 5 days. So the final video will go up on the 31st of December. Also bear in mind that I can't see every movie that comes out, and there have been a few movies that have looked awesome that I just haven't managed to see, such as Let Me In, The Town, and to a lesser extent Jackass 3D. Another thing, there are also a few movies that have had excellent review scores that do look very good, but they haven't seen a very wide release up to this point, so I can't include them on my list because I haven't had the chance to see them. These movies include 127 Hours, Black Swan, and The King's Speech. Anyway, that's enough of that, let's get this party started. Woo! Going into 2010, this is probably the film I was most hyped for. I was a huge fan of the original, and I thought the visuals and the story of it were both very cool, along with the fact that Robert Downey Jr. was so perfect for the role of Iron Man himself. I feel on many levels this film did deliver, but in the same respect, it certainly wasn't without its problems. Considering the type of film the first one was, and the sort of expectations I had going into the sequel, I found it to be sort of disappointing, as I felt the action to dialogue ratio was kind of off. The writing wasn't quite as strong, and the characters weren't quite as interesting as I'd hoped, but I think the likes of Sam Rockwell, who stars as all-round dickhead Justin Hammer, did save this one from being a movie I really wasn't a fan of. The fact that it makes the list at all shows that this is a good film that you should check out. Also, Gwyneth Paltrow and Scarlett Johansson. Yes. Yes, please. Up until recently, I was well out of the Harry Potter loop. I'd only ever seen the first 3 films and read the first 3 books when they first came out. However, after heavy encouragement from several friends, I decided to give the movies another go, if not the books. In typical retard fashion, I decided to watch the films in the wrong order. In the end, deciding to go for 6, then 4, then 7, then 5. I found the 6th film to be very underwhelming, and in fact, complete dog shit. So I went into the 7th film, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, with pretty low expectations. To my surprise, I actually enjoyed the film a lot. The set pieces and action scenes were pretty cool, and the special effects, as always with this series, were pretty sweet. And perhaps the most surprising thing was that the acting wasn't actually that bad, something that can't be said for the other films. I'd certainly say this is one of the strongest Harry Potter films yet, and fingers crossed the final film due out next year can deliver.
Give you a briefing about the institution.
I was very impressed by the trailers for this film before release, but when the review scores started coming in, I was a little worried. Because of this, I decided to put off watching it until recently. After watching the film, I can't help but think it's been underrated by critics, and is a very underappreciated title. The film has a very strong cast, and they do a great job throughout. I feel the narrative is strong and full of plenty of interesting twists and turns, and the direction is also excellent. Despite being, in my opinion, quite predictable from early on, I think the film is thoroughly enjoyable and definitely worth a watch.